Hello, Dr. Mona. I'm Daya Muhammad Osman, and I'm going to talk about language transfer, relativism, and universalism. So first of all, I'm going to talk about language transfer, and it means applying knowledge from one language to another. For example, I can apply my knowledge from Arabic to English. I can apply any knowledge from the first language to the second language, and this can result into two types of transfer. Number one, positive transfer, and it can occur when the structure used is correct in both languages. For example, when I say he goes to school, I can say also in Arabic هو يذهب إلى المدرسة, because this structure is correct and can be used in both languages. In addition, I can start my sentences in both Arabic and English with the use of personal pronouns, so it can result in positive transfer. However, regarding negative transfer, it can occur when we transfer items that are not similar in both languages. So for example, I can say in Arabic عندي إجازة الجمعة, but I can't say in English I have holiday on the Friday, because the concept of article is different in both languages. We can't precede the days of the week in English with the use of articles, so it results in a negative transfer. And now I'm going to talk about different orientations that are opposite to each other, which are relativism and universalism. Relativism means that something is relative, it's not fixed, or it's changeable. So linguistic relativism means that languages are not similar. However, universalism, it means that something is universal, it's similar, so it can be applicable to anything else. So linguistic universalism means that some concepts are universal across languages. And now I'm going to talk about linguistic relativism in details. Like I've said, that languages are not similar, and language differs in the degree of difficulty. So for example, if I ask the question like what's the hardest language, I can get many variable answers. Some people would say English, some people would say Russian, others would say Chinese. However, the answer must be, or the appropriate answer must be, it depends. For example, if I get a native speaker of English who wants to learn Swedish, it will be very easy for him to study it because Swedish is a Germanic language. However, if I get a native speaker of Arabic who wants to study or learn Swedish, it will be very hard for him because Arabic is not a Swedish language, it's not a Germanic language like Swedish. So the answer here is relative because it differs. Number one, the logic of language is evolved out of culture, so it's not universal. So by the logic of language I mean rational, emotional, and ethical arguments and thoughts. So the logic of language is dependent on culture, and cultures differ. So for example, the logic in Arabic countries is different from that of the Western countries. Number two, relativists are against semantic equivalence. So they believe that we can't find lexical equivalents for every word we want to translate. So for example, the words hijj and hijab in Arabic, we can't find a translation or a lexical equivalence for them in English. So instead of translating them, we'll have to transliterate them. And finally, relativists are against native language habits. So for example, if someone said that my native language has some habits that must be applicable to other languages, he will be mistaken according to relativism because they are against this assumption. And now I'm going to talk briefly about Sapir and Horf hypothesis. It's based on the assumption that the structure of language affects the speaker's cognition and worldview. They believe that there is something that's called language of thought, and that language determines and affects our thoughts. So for example, our Arabic language and its structure is full of religious and emotive words, so it will influence our thoughts and our perception of the world. So the language has a great effect on us. And I'm going to give you some examples of the relativity of language. Spatial references are different through the use of prepositions across languages, so they are relative. So for example, if I give an example to two speakers, one from Germany and one is Urdu speaker, like the keys are hanging dots, the hooks, the German speaker would use at and the Urdu speaker would use with. Although the place is fixed, the use of preposition differs across languages, so it's relative. In addition, languages share different usage of articles and prepositions. For example, we can say in Arabic يشعر بالألم, but we can't say in English feel with pain, and we can say in Arabic يؤثر على, but we can't say in English affect on, because the verb affect in English doesn't have to take a preposition. In addition, the use of article is different and is relative. For example, we can say in Arabic salam, we can add articles to abstract nouns. However, we can't do so in English. We can't say the peace or the nature. We say only peace and nature. On the other hand, concerning linguistic universalism, they believe that some concepts are universal across languages. We can't say whatever we want to say in any language, so anywhere can be translated into another language. So they believe in lexical equivalence. They believe that all languages have diacritic elements. By diacritic elements, I mean spatial and temporal diaxes. In addition, tenses are relative across languages. However, aspects of tenses are universal, like the perfect and the simple and continuous. It's universal. These aspects are universal. And finally, all languages can express affective states and emotions that are universal. And then the chapter gives us an example that some cognate words have semantic differences that have affective consequences. For example, the word pregnant in English and the word prenada in Spanish. These two words are similar in shape and form. However, the word prenada in Spanish doesn't indicate the state of a human female, so it can't be an appropriate translation for the word pregnant in English. And finally, the chapter mentions Chomsky and his universal theory about UG. Grammar is universal. Languages share common concepts such as nouns, verbs, and actions, which make languages universal. We can decide which concepts we can use and which we can't. And this can lead to negative transfer. So, for example, a native speaker of language can decide which concepts he has in his brain or in his LAD or UG he can use in acquiring a second language, and this makes languages universal. And that's it. Thank you, Doctor.